Trevor Barry. Trevor is a public servant, community volunteer, millennial father of two, and first-time council candidate who believes in economically efficient ideas for a sustainable future. Trevor Barry. Saanich appears to be heading towards increasing densification of existing neighborhoods. What do you see as the role of residents when decisions that lead to further densification are made?
Yeah, thanks. Great question. So in my platform, I talk about we can have it both ways. We can maintain the residential and natural character of our existing neighborhoods, such as the ones we're in right now. But at the same time, we need to build along our urban corridors. And so it's the urban corridors where the best opportunity for smart growth, which is gentle densification that gets a little high and then goes back low, and to the point that when you're about 3 blocks behind the major corridor, you're not seeing much residential construction beyond what's already normal today. So the opportunity lies in making it energy and economically efficient. So energy efficient is putting in better building codes, building construction closer together, the missing middle of the housing market that the real estate pinch has been pushing on. And on the energy side, it's energy on the efficiency side, it's about making the economy more efficient in Saanich by having us spend less on externalities, economic term. But transit, and where the transit service is, and walk score, this should determine where we put density. So Mackenzie is a great place to put density, Quadra is a great place to put density. 2 blocks from here is not where we need to see more density. Thank you.
Thank you. Trevor Barry.
And here we go. My name is Trevor Barry. I want to thank all of you for coming out this evening and being warm. I want to thank the Gordon Head Residents Association for putting this on. And I want to thank everyone who submitted a question and all of us who submitted 2-minute answers and some more. Now we have 5 weeks of research left to do, right? Thank you all for caring so much about local government. Local government is where the magic happens. Local government is where the rubber hits the road. Yes, the province and the feds are important. They provide money and social services and the legislative framework. But local government is where we live, where we work, where we play, where businesses operate, where we build roads, where the impacts of climate change will be the most noticeable, where the infrastructure deficit will grow if not left unchecked. It is so important that we work together and we use smart public policy approaches to make improvements where possible. I believe in economically efficient ideas for a sustainable future. And what does that mean? It means using demand-side management. So one example of that would be, we should all get 10,000 liters of water for free and pay for the stuff above that. When it comes to the housing affordability crisis that my millennial generation is dealing with especially, we need to look at the fact that we're paying a flat tax on a human right, housing. What if we change legislation so the first $100,000 in assessed value of a primary residence was tax-free, and there was a marginal rate above that? So I come to you with a bunch of economics and public policy prowess. I want to change things up a little bit. I'd like to see new people on council. I'd like to see open data and transparency at the corporate level of Saanich. I'm a father, I'm a musician, I'm an athlete, I'm a serial volunteer, I'm on the community association, I've done the citizens advisory thing. I really want to shake things up and change things for the better. I thank you for your time for coming out tonight. Cheers.
Thank you. And Sean Newby.
Thank you everyone for coming out tonight. Thank you so much for showing interest in local government. The provincial and the federal governments are important, but municipal issues is where the rubber really hits the road. This is the important area of public policy for the future, and it's all about how we build our cities. I'm a millennial, I'm a father of 2 young kids, and I want to bring a new and fresh perspective to council. It is my generation that's facing the housing crunch and the affordability crisis. Others are too. But it's my generation, and if you're under 40 in this room, please raise your hand. So my hat is off to you, because we are the ones that are dealing with the impacts of climate change the most. We're the ones that are going to deal with the infrastructure deficit that's left behind. Okay? I'm also a young person, so I'm on my phone a lot this evening. I'm not being rude, I hope. I'm live tweeting everything that's happening. I want the people who couldn't make it into this room today to also be able to engage. My number one goal in this campaign is to bring out the under 40 vote. So there's a lot of things about me that I can tell you, but not in 2 minutes of time. So I told you about the fact that, well, let me tell you, I'm a public servant. I worked on the Citizens Advisory Committee at Saanich. I've been 5 years on my community association. I've studied at the SFU City program. And I believe in equity issues and in environmental and in sustainability issues and economic issues. So if you're looking for my sign, you will not find it out there. My signs are digital ones on Twitter and on Facebook. I don't believe in signs. It's bad use of public space. They're ugly, and it's not fair that politicians get to put them up every 2 years, but no one else ever gets to pollute our sidewalk. So if you believe in economically efficient ideas for a sustainable future, on October 20th, vote for Trevor.
Rebecca Mercer. Trevor Barry. We understand that Saanich has 1.5 bylaw officers on staff. These officers enforce bylaws in all our 183 parks, but only work Monday to Friday. Bylaw infractions occur on weekends. What steps need to be taken to protect our parks all day, every day?
So I have to say one of my park's pieces at this moment. I believe that if you are an adult at a picnic area in a park, you should be able to crack open a beer or a glass of wine with a picnic with your family. Now, the issue with that modernization of liquor policy would be enforcement. Enforcement is an issue in Saanich that is hard to deal with from an administrative point of view. So now to another one of my points in my platform, open data at corporate Saanich. Cities across the world, our size and bigger, are taking on what's called an open data policy. All of our information should be available, all our corporate assets, all of our information, and if all those systems were brought into an open data format, we would be able to use apps to solve a lot of our problems, including crowdsourced bylaw enforcement, which isn't squeaky wheel. It's knowing where the problems are and being able to put our resources accordingly.
Rishi Sharma. Each candidate will now have 1 minute for closing remarks. Trevor Barry.
So I'm going to take a minute to talk about economics in my closing remarks. Don't need a mic. Career politicians like using the economics of supply-side capital investment because it gives them something to construct, something to have a ribbon ceremony, a photo op, and a bump in GDP. What I'm interested when I put an economic lens on public policy is demand-side management. It's not nearly as sexy, but it's saying, what are people doing that's bad? What are people doing that's good? And how can we provide financial incentive to do more of one and less of the other? And so an example of this might be that if we think that drinking water and housing are human rights, but the first 10,000 liters of water and the first $100,000 of assessed value of a primary residence should be tax-free, and that there would be a marginal cost on top of that. My platform dives into sustainability and economic theory to make better public policy solutions. Trevor4saanich.
Ned Taylor.
And timer. Hi everyone, my name is Trevor Barry. Thank you everyone for coming out tonight, for taking time out of your busy week for democracy at the local government level, which is so important. We couldn't fit everyone in tonight, and that is a great sign for our community. I want to be one of the new council members that get elected this time around. It's my rookie season, but I have spent 5 years in the minors at the community association level and at the Saanich Advisory Committee level. And I bring some skills like changing diapers and getting kids off to kindergarten in the morning, new parts of my life. And that perspective, I think, is well needed on council. I also believe in economically efficient ideas for a sustainable future. You'll see that on my website, Trevor4saanich And these cards that I was passing out, well, not that one, these cards that I was passing out while I was playing my saxophone outside is because I don't have signs on the...
First question is, do you support a continuous 40-kilometer-per-hour speed limit along the full length of the Cordova Bay corridor from Sayward Road, Pat Bay Highway intersection through to Ash Road? Yes.
"30 seconds? That first initial spot from the highway to Adderley might not need to be 40, I think, but everything after that, it does make a lot of sense. And if you look at a Vision Zero strategy that's good road safety public policy making, it would suggest the same.
What he said.
That concludes question 1. Question 2 from the community associations. We'll begin with the answer of Trevor Barry and the mayoral candidate answer of Richard Atwell. Question 2. The current policy of Saanich for the enforcement of most bylaws is to require that there be 2 complainants resident within 300 meters of the subject property before a bylaw complaint will be investigated and acted upon. What is your position on allowing community associations to act as second complainants for purposes of bylaw complaints? Trevor Barry?
Trevor Barry, that's me. It's a great idea. Community associations are not always reflective of the community that they are serving, so it should go wider than that. If we had an open data corporate Saanich platform for all of our information, we could have an app-based solution to crowdsource the need to put our resources for bylaw enforcement where they best need. So it's not squeaky wheel, it's best practice based on crowdsourced information. How many politicians does it take to move a microphone?
22 is the answer.
So question 3, and time to move the mic. Question 3 will begin with Trevor Barry. Well, no, Kathleen Burton, and we'll end with Trevor Barry at the other end. And among the mayoral candidates, it will begin with Rob Wixon. The question is, if elected, what would your 3 top priorities be?
Trevor Barry here again. You heard me say it earlier. Open data platform to make the bureaucracy at Saanich more efficient and transparent and make things easier. Affordability, which is both housing and transportation and mobility, and that can be achieved through demand-side management rather than supply-side management. And on the governance file, I would like to see term limits on council, or they get paid less each time they return, and possibly a small business seat on council.
Should we be continuing with densification in Saanich, like cottage homes in backyards, duplexes, smaller lot sizes, higher buildings, before we deal with the limitations of our existing infrastructure, especially for traffic and parking issues?
Trevor Barry here, and I'm a graduate of the 2-year SFU City program. And what we've heard everyone else talking about is smart growth. for complete communities that are more economically and energy mobility efficient. I want to bring up a new point though. One is we have to prioritize in advance those applications that are going to come to council, so the good ones get a head start. And keep in mind that every time we say no, that's economic leakage out to the West Shore, which is an ugly, sprawling mess.
The question is, how would you address the tent camping of homeless people in our parks?
I would like to put forward that we all donate the wood from our signs that are littering the roads, and we build tiny houses on a location Saanich decides.
Trevor Barry here, and I don't have signs because that's another public policy issue. I had occasion to be the best man in Edmonton this past weekend, and we had extra pizza after the rehearsal dinner. So we took it downtown and gave it to some homeless people. And I had occasion to ask somebody, where are you going to go next? And he said, well, two of my friends ended up in Victoria. So what if we had a progressive property tax system instead of a flat tax, so that really cheap housing pulled more people out of poverty?
The Cordova Bay Plaza project contains no provision for affordable housing. How would you ensure that some affordable housing is included in future developments?
Trevor Barry here, and surprise, surprise, I agree with Rebecca and Ned. There's a couple other things I'd like to add to the flavor here. One is, what if the developer had to sell to locals first, and if 60 days goes by, then to people outside the CRD in British Columbia, and then if 60 days goes by, you know what I mean? No foreign speculation. And another thing would be basing the housing construction on things like walk score, amenity proximity, and having a progressive system.
In the past 4 years, have you been a member of, donated to, or attended a meeting put on primarily for supporters of any provincial party, political party? If so, which party or parties? And this will be 5 words or fewer. Yes, I will repeat it. In the past 4 years, have you been a member of, donated to, or attended a meeting put on primarily for supporters of any provincial political party? If so, which party or parties? In 5 words or less.
I have not. I've never been able to pick a party at either the provincial or federal level.
Sean Newby, no, I have not been part of a
Benjamin Allen, no, I haven't.
Ian Jessup, no.
Susan Bryce, BC Liberal Party.
Vernon Lord, BC Liberal Party.
Art Pollard, BC Liberal Party.
Colin Plant, New Democratic Party, not influenced.
Judy Brownoff, no.
Zach DeVries, NDP. What Colin said.
Teal Phelps, Bondroff, those don't count, by the way. President of Saanich Gulf Island and DP.
Corey Montgomery, no.
No.
Trevor Barry, BC Green Party, BC Liberal Party, Canada Conservative Party, just dating.
Not a member, have donated to the Greens.
BC Liberals, but very independent. Ed Taylor, yes, multiple parties, but I'm still nonpartisan.
Second question. We all expect that when you're asked... No, How could I forget the mayor? In the past 4 years, have you been a member of, donated to, or attended a meeting put on primarily for supporters of any provincial political party? If so, which party or parties?
No. Fred Haynes, Green, NDP, Liberal, learning to do better.
The last couple of years, I've gone to a couple of the leaders' dinners. They were put on.
The next question.
Excuse me, Sophie. My name is Colin. I'm sorry to interrupt you, and I do find it poor etiquette. But I'm noticing there are a lot of people who seem to want to have to step up and go. And I'm wondering if you would consider it rude to allow the meeting a 2-minute adjournment to allow those who need to go without feeling that they're interrupting each other. I'm sorry for interrupting the meeting.
Certainly.
Thanks for coming.
We all expect that when you're asked a question about amalgamation, you will tell us that you want to hear from the people first. Fair enough. But are you personally in favor of or opposed to amalgamation with Victoria?
Sean Newby,
5 words or 2 words.
in favor of ballot question.
Generally speaking, yes, but up to.
Ian Jessup, yes, under the right circumstances.
Susan Grace, ballot, public, yes. Me, private.
Vernon Lord, support question. Personally, no.
No.
Hi, I'm Colin. Not enough info to decide.
So mine's similar, it's just need more information from you.
Zach DeVries. Support ballot. Personally, I'm torn.
Support study with Citizens Assembly.
Corey Montgomery, Navy, not Victoria.
Natalie Chambers, no Democratic post. No, but yes to the study.
Trevor Barry. 13 is way too many.
Kathleen Burton, 1, no. 13, no. Somewhere in the middle.
3 or 4. Assembly, yes. Amalgamation, 3. Areas.
It's a yes for citizens to have their say.
13, too many, 1, no.
Open-minded with healthy skepticism.
Open-minded, need convincing data.
I support the Citizens Assembly because I took it from the minister's office.
5 words?
I think we need to do something.
Evidence-based decision first.
Don't you love this? Did you vote to rescind the EDPA, or would you have if on council? Simple yes or no will suffice. Beginning with Benjamin Allen and beginning with Richard Etwell.
Yes, I would vote to rescind.
Yes, I would vote to rescind.
I did rescind.
No, I would not vote to rescind.
No, I would not vote to rescind.
Colin, I voted yes, but nuanced.
I did not vote to rescind.
Rescind, but replace.
No, it's not good governance without a replacement.
Yes, but rebuild properly.
No, and I would like to recoup all community investment.
What would Vic Derman do?
Not without a replacement.
I moved it, and we need to have a biodiversity strategy.
Need to relook at a new plan. EDPA flawed, but needs replacement.
No, poor governance, poor outcome.
No. Can you use the microphone, please, so we can hear?
No.
Didn't hear me? Sorry. No, I was in support of amending the bylaw, not rescinding.
Attempted 2 years ago, and yes.
No. Rescinded to do better for everyone.
It is well known that infighting and chaos has been rampant during the past 4 years, both among Saanich municipal employees and council. How will you bring order and harmony to both these groups?
Trevor Barry, I believe that government is at its best when it is its most reflective of its constituency and the diversity of that community. I believe term limits or something similar would mean that there would be more renewal and less political jockeying, which would mean less of the problem as defined in the question. I also believe in better governance. So as we move towards maybe amalgamation, let's say no to wards, because that's first past the post, divisiveness and partisanship, and to more proportional representation, independent councillors. Okay, Trevor Barry saying goodnight for the evening and thank you for coming out. Trevor is the candidate that greeted you at the door with his saxophone and my business cards because I do not put up signs. There are a few different reasons for that, and I don't think there should be so many signs out there. I'm the candidate that has 2 young children. The oldest just started kindergarten. I've served on the North Quadra Community Association for the last 5 years. I've been on a Citizens Advisory Committee at District of Saanich for 3 of those years. I play volleyball around town with Saanich Rec and squash. I sit on the board of the Best Coast Big Band Society where I created the Constitution and bylaws. I've even been a small business owner for a small stint in my career. I have an SFU City Program diploma. I believe in economic efficiency first and foremost in public policy design. I'm a bit of a legislation geek working for the government of BC. I understand a lot about how these things work. I have an extensive, almost too extensive, policy platform on my website, Trevor4saanich ACM. Thank you. It's a sit down here? Yeah. Check 1, 2. Hi everybody, my name is Trevor Barry. I'm a Saanich resident, moved here about 11 years ago, have a young family now, 2 young kids, oldest just started kindergarten. I don't live in rural Saanich, although in my SFU City program I graduated from a couple years ago. Saanich was this really interesting case study because there's rural and there's urban, and not a lot of municipalities divide it so discreetly, mathematically discreetly. So I'm a millennial candidate who brings some expertise in city management, sustainability, economics lens is what I always try to bring to the public policy debate. My number one goal entering this campaign was to increase the under 40 crowd voter turnout. I'm not seeing a heck of a lot of that tonight, but I'm working really hard online to do that. You will not see any signs of mine on the roadways because I don't like signs on the roadway. I use Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and my saxophone, which you may have heard me using outside. So remember, Trevor is the saxophone player who cares about an economically efficient future for sustainability and the next generation. Thanks.
Hello, and thank you all for being here. Really appreciate it. I've just been told that my question is going to be answered by all the candidates, not just the mayoral candidates, so I have to reframe it a bit.
Sorry, we're going to rotate one at a time through them.
Oh,
everybody gets a question.
Oh, so I have to ask something of...
We're going to start on that end of the table and go through sequentially.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay, well, here was my question. My question is, we have an interesting combination of incumbents and new people. One of them is even called newbie. So my question was going to be about the value of incumbency. So, Trevor, I wonder if you'd comment on what do you think would be the value of bringing council experience to a new role on council, and if you don't have it, how could you make up for it? So you don't have council experience, how would you make up for that?
Okay, thanks. Great question. So I think there's actually four types, right? There's the incumbents, there's the people like Sean who have actually run before, and then there's the folks who have not run before. So I haven't run for council before, that's very, very true. The last time I was elected anything was House President at UBC. But I have been on my community association, and I know a lot of others have been who haven't been elected as well. I've been on the Citizens Advisory Committee, and I know a lot of other people in Saanich have served in that capacity as well. I believe government is at its best when it is its most reflective and diverse of the community and all the different types of voices that the community has to have at the decision-making table. And so to that end, I see myself as a really big asset because I have the millennial experience of being a father of young kids. I work in the sustainability field. I have a degree in science, that sort of thing.
Okay, thank you very much.
Hi everybody, I'm Erin. I am a resident of Royal Oak specifically, and my son is in French immersion, so we have to travel out to Bayside School right now. He's in grade 7. And I'm listening to all the people talking about the traffic issues along West Saanich Road, and I use that on a daily basis because if my son took the bus to go to school, he would be on it for an hour and a half. And so I'm not working right now, and I figure he's my job at the moment. So I take time and I drive him 2 times a day to school. And I have ridden my bike out to Red Barn Market, and there's great bike paths as far as Red Barn Market. But when you leave Red Barn Market and you get onto Wallace, which is, I don't think is Saanich anymore, it is unbelievably unsafe. And I see little kids walking home along Wallace, and I agree with the woman who was speaking just before, someone will die. And I'm wondering who I don't know who to talk to here. Is my question for anyone specific right now? Am I supposed to be starting at the end? Hi. So Mr. Barry, I guess my question for you and maybe everybody is how well can you coordinate And maybe this connects with amalgamation too, because how well can you coordinate with other municipalities? Because our school system is kind of spanning different municipalities. And so it's impacting Saanich residents as well. But we don't have a lot of say in other, but maybe somebody could actually bring people together to come up with some sort of solution.
So, Trevor Barry here. This is a too many cooks in the kitchen kind of a problem. So, while we're all voting on October 20th for Trevor and 8 others, you can also vote for your school district trustees. Now, there is a complete lack of coordination between school district planning, and there are different districts that overlap in different ways than the 13 municipalities do, and municipal planning and CRD planning.
So how would you as a counselor manage that, given that we don't have a lot of coordination right now? Because I guess that's what my question is. What can you do?
So some of the crux of your question is governance and transportation, and what Ned talked about, like a path just ending at the boundary, or not even at a boundary, just ending. So whether we amalgamate with Victoria, whether there's another version of amalgamation that comes our way, and Rebecca spoke to this, a TransLink-like transportation authority that is in charge of more than just transportation. It's roads and buses and bikeways and greenways and transportation demand management, which is parking and densification and transit-oriented development. TransLink in Vancouver gets a lot of a bad rap, but they are one of the best agencies in the world at doing this integrated planning, because the best transportation plan is a good land use plan, and they have to come hand in hand. So amalgamation, with or without the yes on this study, is kind of silly if we don't also have a regional transportation authority. And then the last thing I want to add here is all local governments need to get an open data platform in place so that we know our assets and it's all available for the brain trust of a very intelligent region to get together and say, here's how we can put all these things together so they work better and it's more equitable. Thank you.
We're now coming back to table 1, starting with Ned. And the question for your table, Ned, is about land use. In the long term, how do you propose to provide housing for those that have minimal or zero income, including those who live in tent cities? Thank you.
Hi, Trevor Barry here again. I see homelessness not as a problem, but as the symptom of a confluence of other problems caused by a dereliction of duty by senior levels of government. Having said that, local government has a land use lens to put on the issue, which is to make space for. And I now believe that no matter which group of us gets elected, that issue is going to be salient, top of mind, and that issue is going to be there. But at the other end, or middle end of the affordability spectrum, so you have homelessness down here, and in the middle, there's the affordability crisis. And I feel that millennials in particular are feeling this acutely. Affordability is a mixture of basically 2/3 housing and 1/3 mobility, or transportation. So it comes down to the crux of the question, land use. And so land use needs to be smart growth along urban corridors, close to amenities, and proximate to transit. I bring an SFU city program 2-year diploma to that question.
For table number 1, and we'll start with Rishi, and this will be read out by Noella May, who's the Vice President of Water Cedar Hill.
Good evening. This question has to do with climate change. What top three actions would you support to reduce our district's greenhouse gas emissions? What top 3 actions would you support to reduce our district's greenhouse gas emissions?
Trevor Barry here. Just after Rishi helped set it up, I've been working at the Climate Action Secretariat in the province of British Columbia for the last 10 years. So there are 3 elements of climate action that need to be considered: mitigation of carbon emissions, adaptation to a changing climate, and the economic model that we need to apply to make these things work. On the carbon mitigation front, Saanich was a leader in the early days of the Climate Action Charter and brought in a $30 internal price on carbon. The external price on carbon has gone up since then, and Saanich's internal price on carbon has stayed at $30. So it needs to go up to the $50 mark that the feds have put out there. And what that does, that gives more incentive within Saanich corporate operations to put money into a fund to help fund things like adaptation measures, which would help pay for a natural asset catalog in an open data format so that land use decisions take into account future climate conditions. And finally, demand side management is the lens of economics that we should use when assessing these things.